Alright, what is going on, guys? It is finally time. I promised I would do it. Many people have asked me for it. Let us get started with a Grimnir guide and how the heck do you play this freaking character. Now to start, what is he? He's weird. He's broken. He's terrible. This character needs to die. This character is amazing. I don't know, at this point I pretty much heard basically everything on how to describe Grimnir, but in the end, let's just call him Grimnir. He is my main. He is very fun. He is very fun to play in my opinion, and there's no better place to start than with his normals. Now let's start with the one normal everyone wants to know, and that is his far H. Easily his best button. It was nerfed last patch, and it is still at his best button. Nothing has changed. The difference is it is now 3 frames less active, but it's still his best button. Why is it his best button? Because of the first part right here. That little pink flash, it comes out in 8 frames. And that's what makes this move so busted. In this game, moves have priority. Light side with lights, medium speed lights, etc, etc. So having a 8 frame button that has a heavy level priorities is absolutely insane, and it's easily his go-to normal and the one that everyone most talks about, complains about, uses, whatever we want to put it. And the part that we don't really talk about, but is technically still there, is the second half of his far H. Comes out in 22 frames, has absolutely insane reach. Can occasionally just throw it out in neutral just because you can, but it's typically all about the first part of that far H though. And since we've not talked about his far H, we can now move on to his specials, because there's no point in talking about any of the normal, but okay, fine, we'll go over his other normals. Alright. So his other normals, let's start with his light buttons, of course. A very unusual far L. It's got a, because even though it is 6 frames, it's a low. Now you might expect that in something maybe like Dragon Ball, but there's not many characters in this game that have a low far L. So that's neat. Not the greatest normals. The fact that it's a low is really cool because you can use it to catch a lot of people walking backwards. But the range on it isn't the greatest. But it's still, definitely not a bad far L though, not to say the least. His 2L on the other hand is basically just a worse far L. I mean, it's got basically the same range. It's the same amount of frames, and they're both lows. The only really good thing about it, pretty much, is doing 2L into 4L, or doing 2L into throw to try to set up strike throws. That's the main use for it. Otherwise, it's kind of just an okay button. On block though, far L's +1, 2L is -2. But you can string multiple of them together though, so there's always that. But yeah, so for the most part, relatively okay-ish far light buttons. And of course, the tried and true JL of Grand Blue. You press it, it lasts forever. Why is this a thing in the game? I will never know. But it's a thing in the game, and Grimnir has it too. And as for his close L, relatively standard, +4 on block, 5 frame close normal. So basically, relatively standard in the case of his close L. Now for his mediums, not exactly standard. So far M, 9 frames, decent range on it though. Probably going to be your go-to button if people are trying to run at you. And knowing the fact that you're constantly trying to set up seals as Grimnir, it does happen quite a bit. So far M, a decent tool to press when people are trying to come at you. His 2M on the other hand is kind of bad. There's really no better way to put it. His 2M is 6 frames. Okay, so so that part is nuts, right? I think he's the only character in the game with a 6 frame 2M. The issue is his 2M is a mid. Also, it has barely more range than his 5L. Or it has basically the same range as his 4L. So, yeah, it's nothing really all that great, and outside of using it in combos, it's not typically your go-to tool in almost any situation. And as for JM, it is going to be his primary air button. Good reach, pretty good angle, and it is his go-to button when it comes to landing cross-ups. Do not ask me why a kick that goes forward is the button that hits cross-ups. I will not be able to tell you. It is what it is. And as for his close M, it's 7 frames. So 7 frames, 0 on block. So slightly slower than the I'm not gonna say required 6-frame close M, but the more desired close 6-frame close M. But it's decent, especially since they updated the 6XLs to now be able to confirm with 7-frame mediums. So that part's good. And then as for his heavies, we've already talked about the far H. His down heavy, on the other hand, it goes very high. And when I say it goes very high, I mean it goes very high. And that being said, though, not the greatest in horizontal range. It has some horizontal range on startup, but it's not the greatest when it comes to any kind of horizontal range, be it in front or behind. So it's an okay 2H, really good against people who are constantly in super jumping, but it's typically not your best go-to anti-air option. We'll get more towards that once we get to the specials. And as for close H, 8 frames, -2 on block. It works. That's about it. It works. And then as for his JH, decent vertical range in a similar sense as his 2H. Typically used for fuzzy setups or to set up pressure when jumping in, but JM does typically end up being your go-to normal when it comes to being in the air. But for what it is, it works. And now for his remain buttons, we got his sweep. His sweep is either really good or really bad, depending on the situation. If it hits relatively close, you get a knockdown, plenty of plus frames, really good. When you're far away, it doesn't cause a knockdown and can be plus or can be negative. It all depends on the distance, and unlike a lot of characters' sweeps, his is not special cancelable. So what you get is what you get. Block, on the other hand, when you're too close, it's punishable. When you're really far away though, I said when you're really far away, though, you're safe. So it's very much a spacing normal. Typically only really used maybe when you're in the corner and and people are trying to back away from you. You can use it to try and knock them down and escape the corner. Typically what it's used for, but since it's not special cancelable, it's not the greatest option since it is very punishable on block. But it is a decent tool to try to escape the corner, and is a decent way to try to catch people off guard, especially since it does have some pretty decent range to it. And then lastly, of his basic normals, we have his JU, which is much like almost everything else I've talked about when it comes to his normals, a little goofy. What I mean by a little goofy? Well, it hits cross up, but it hits both sides as it looks. But how plus or minus you are entirely depends on when the last hit hits. And what I mean by that is his normal has a set amount of hits, right? The lower you are to the ground when the last hit hits, That's all. I probably have said more hits. It's probably said use the word hit more times than I've ever said in my entire life there. Will determine how plus or sometimes even minus you can be. So right there it's 0. Right there it's +5. It all comes down to how low to the ground you are when it hits. It's very strange, but it's a pretty useful tool for one as a throw bait, and B, Grimnir has a very slow jump, but when you use JU, he doesn't go as high, and he starts falling faster. So it's both a good throw bait, a good way to punish people for trying to throw you. It's just a decent. It's a pretty good air button in general to have. And then then last but not least, we have the dashing buttons. Every single character in the entire game's best button, dashing L, +2 on block, combo on hits. It's dash L. I mean, every single character is going to abuse it. That's just how it is. Grimnir's dashing medium though is a 22 frame overhead, so relatively quick, pretty good mix up tool. But as you see, he's -18. He's -18, -14 on block, meaning you are going to die if they block it. So try not to be too obvious with it, but it's still a good tool to throw out from time to time. And lastly, his dashing H is a dashing mid with a ton of range. -4 on block, a lot of push away to try to set up frame traps with your far H, and on hits. You do get a combo off it in the corner, and on counter hits, you do get a combo off it mid screen as well. So good, really good normal to use. Typically, mostly used in the corner for certain setups and certain Oki options, but it is a really good option to have, especially also if you want to swing for random counter hits as well. And that is it for all of Grimnir's normals. So now let us move on to the part that makes Grimnir really good. Right, the negativity is basically going to go away right now, because we are going to go straight into specials, which is the absolute peak of what makes Grimnir strong. Alright, now to start with the specials, let's start off with his just plain skill button, or his core circle forward, depending on if you're doing technical or simple inputs, and that is his tornado. Relatively straightforward looking at first, but his tornado is one of the best projectiles in the entire game for multiple reasons. The main one being though is the fact that you can change its directions, and you can do up. You have 3 different options. And it doesn't matter which tornado you do, minus the ultimate one, you can change the direction for any of them. So you have 3 options. First one, if you do core circle forward and then do up plus the button, you send the tornado skyward. If you do core circle forward and then forward plus button again, you send it about twice the speed forward across the screen. But the real best one though, the one that everyone talks about, everyone complains about, and every Grimnir loves to abuse, is when you press back plus the button, because it will last longer on screen and it will stay in place. And when we're talking about his EX1 specifically, it stays in place for a long time. His medium one, being buffed the last patch, also stays on screen for quite a bit as well. And his ultimate tornado, although you're unable to aim it, 22 frames to get full screen, and up close, 11 frames. And since it's an ultimate projectile, it'll go through EX projectiles, light, medium projectiles, and because of that, you can also confirm full screen with this 2-1 for you. So his ultimate tornado with the buffs is just absolutely insane now. Great projectile game, great neutral control. His tornado pretty much does it all for him. It's great for zoning. It's great for his set play, which we'll get to next once we get to seals. it's great for setups as well, which we'll get to once we get towards Oki options, as well as general set play ideas for the character. But first, let's talk about what you use the Tornado for, and that is to set up his seals. His seals are the most complicated part about this character, but the basics of it is 2-2L. We'll set up a seal right in front of him and near the ground. 2-2M. We'll set one up near him but in the air. 2-2L while holding it will be far away and close to the ground, and 2-2M will be far away from him and up in the air if you hold it. And then 2-2H will just set up all 4 seals all at one time in this exact setup every single time. There is no controlling which one goes where when you do EX. It always comes out with this layout. And 2-2U does basically the exact same thing as 2-2H when it comes to the seals, but this one has a hitbox. And as you see, it puts him in a crouching state, which means you get a full combo from it. And as you just saw me do right there, the whole point of Grimnir seals, and the one thing I didn't talk about when talking about his normals, is his unique ability, and that is when Grimnir is standing in the middle of a seal, you'll see a light up. It'll basically grow to be twice its size, and once Grimnir is in the seal, he can dash in any direction, depending on which direction you're holding and when you press the U button. And yes, the dash has a hitbox. So typically, if your opponent's not blocking, your opponent's walking towards you, you just dash in, and it basically counts similar-ish to like a 6-6L, to where you can confirm it with close M. But just for the record, on block, you are -2, so if they block it, it is their turn. That being said, though, if you do a Tiger Knee dash, on them, and you press light afterwards, then basically you will win. Actually, you're not going to win. You will tie or clash with basically every character in the game if they try to mash on you as well. So, but be careful. Be careful when doing the Tiger Knee dash, though, because it can be ducked by all characters. So be careful of that. And on top of that, the other thing I didn't talk about was his 5U. His 5U is a jump that basically just goes straight in the air. Doesn't look very good, does it? But when you have seals out, the jump will always go towards either your last place seal or the seal that was furthest away when you placed it. So in the case of the EX seal, it is the one that's furthest away. If I place a new seal like right here, I will go towards that seal. It's always either the last seal placed or the furthest seal from where you placed your EX. So it's not you set up an EX seal and then your first jump will go there and your second jump will go back to the first one. No, you always go towards the first one. And the way you could tell is the seal is spinning faster, and the center symbol is also spinning. You'll see that's different compared to the other 3 seals. That is like a slight indicator of which seal you are going to jump to. And yes, when you go to a seal, you can immediately dash yet again. And that is one of Grimnir's specialties. And one thing that you guys can all laugh at me, because I did not know this, but this is for the people who just like me might not have known. When you're dashing with Grimnir seals, you don't have to manually press the U button every single time you went to a seal. You can just hold it. It's much quicker, it's much easier, it just takes a bit of getting used to, but learn from me and know that you can dash across multiple seals by just holding the button. You can, even if you're just holding it while walking into it, you can still dash, but probably not the best idea. But you can do that as well. Learning something while making a guy. That's always fun. All right, now, anyways, moving on from seals. We'll get back to the seals again in a little bit. Let's talk about his 214 series, or his back skill, which is his lariats. Lariat, Psycho Crusher. What are we gonna talk about? The move that shoots himself forward. It's basically his main gap closer. It's one of his main combo tools since the EX1 wall bounces. So that's the main one you're going to use when you're going for combos. But there's a lot of changes from the last patch to his 214 series. Every single one of his 214s all got changed last patch. For example, let's start with his 214L. So his 214L on block is always -4 now. His 214H is always -8. It doesn't matter the range; they are always the same amount. His 214M, on the other hand, got way better. So his 214M, when up close, is punishable. When at a medium range, it's safe. When at a far enough range, it's plus. So you're going to be using this tool typically as a gap closer in a way, while aiming to try and be at around the max distance you can think of, and try to set up chances to be plus. That is the go-to tool for the 214M. And the other thing about the 214M though is that on counter hits, if they don't block, you get full combo from it if you are close to the corner. So that's a nice little bonus as well. One thing though that is kind of bad that they did change, besides the 214 changes, is on block. You can no longer use this when up close. Before, this was the go-to option when trying to either stagger a string or do a delayed special or something. You cannot do that anymore, because now if you're trying to do that, you will now get punished by a throw. So that part is different. So Grimnir doesn't really have a good special option that you can just throw out at the end of an auto combo string. So typically when it comes to auto combo strings, you'll end with an overhead or a sweep being his LL or MM or whatever into forward H or forward M for high or low respectively. And then the other option, and the one that most people lose their minds over, I'm going to be saying that a lot this guy, I swear, is his 214U, because this move wall bounces anywhere on screen. It's really fast. It is not projectile immune or anything like that, so don't get me wrong, it ain't that crazy. But it's a multi-hitting wall bounce tool that gives him a decent bit of corner carry, as well as mid-screen combos. So this is going to be a button you're going to use a lot in combos. It's an okay whiff punish tool, but it's primarily going to be used in combos, or like I said before, if you notice that you're going to hit the 236U, since this does confirm from roughly 60% of the screen onwards. So really good lariat, a great combo tool, ton of damage, fantastic special, fantastic ultimate move. Now his 214 though has one other application. It also works in the air, but it's kind of different in the air. It's not a lariat anymore. It becomes a giant orb. How you go from this to this, I will never know. But it's there, and it does have its usefulnesses. First 214L has no air delay, has no air stall whatsoever. 214M has a little bit of air delay, and when used with the seal, gives you a combo. 214H on the other hand is where the fun begins. So you get a lot of air delay since you go into the air. And also when you're near the corner, you can get a full extension from it. The real use for it though, or the best use for it, at least in my opinion, is when you have seals up. Remember we talked before about how you constantly jump towards the seal? So his 5U goes a set distance. It won't always go to the seal no matter what. If you're too far away, you will not reach the seal. But if you do 5U when going towards the seal, right? So you have to gain much more horizontal distance. So you do that and immediately do 214H. You fly so far. And this is a tool that you can use to bait out 2Hs. Use it to escape the corner. You can use it to set up possible mix-ups if people try to chase you, because once you go to a seal, you can then immediately dash to other seals. It is a fantastic escape tool. It is a great air stall, and as long as you can reach the seal, you can almost always get back down to the ground safely, which is something that basically all characters dream that they could have. Once you're in the air, most characters, if someone's not pressing a button already, they're toast. They're gain 2H, they're gain anti-air, they're gain something. But Grimnir, because of the air stall, if you got the seal, you can possibly get a mix up from it. You can escape pressure from it. You can just get to the ground and reset to neutral from it. It is a fantastic escape option. Don't use it all the time because you will more than likely get chased down by at some point. But if you can reach the seal, it is very hard to punish, very rarely punished, and just like I said before, because of how you land on seal, you get dashes from it, and you could possibly get a mix from it, and your escape tool can completely flip flop and goes from you're the one under pressure to suddenly they're the one under pressure, and that is something to use. And I use it way too much. All right, and as for his last special, oh, actually I didn't talk about the last one. His 2-1 for you. Yeah, you're basically never going to use it. It's a possible combo ender mid screen if you get a hit from them in the air, but typically it's not really used for anything else past that. Oh, and one thing I did forget. Seals can be used from the air. It doesn't change anything about how they're placed. If you hold it, it goes far away. If you do it up close, if you let go, it does it up close. And they always place the same height from the ground. It doesn't matter if you're high in the air or if you're on the ground. They will always place in the same way. All right, and the last special is his 623L, the Z motion, his DP basically, and that is him spinning like a top. 623L, he will spin forward. M, he will spin upwards. H, he will spin much further upwards, and you can press buttons off of it. So that means you can do that and set seals. So if you get a stray hits, you can do that and set up seals, and then you're good to go from there. And then his 623U is his invincible DP. That being said, fair warning, it is a DP, it is invincible, it costs 50%, but it has very little horizontal range. It has fantastic vertical range, and it does have a 360 hitbox, but its horizontal range is not great. So it's good. It's a decent anti-air tool. It's an alright get off me tool. Just be aware the horizontal range is not great. So if you plan on using it in a similar sense as like Catalina, Siegfried, etc., that's not going to be the good way to do it. As far as DPs go, it's not great, but it's what he's got. So we use what we got. And when I talked about before, and last thing about his specials, I talked before about how his 2H isn't the greatest for anti-airing. His 623H though is a really good anti-air tool, and typically will end up being his go-to anti-air tool, especially since, like I said, you can press buttons afterwards, or you can set up seals from it. So it's a good anti-air tool and a good way to steal some pressure and get going. And the last thing to go over is his supers. So we have his Skybound Art, which is a giant tornado. If it's far away, it does not get a fancy animation afterwards. But if you're up close, you will get more damage as well as this fancy animation afterwards. And if you hold the X button while the tornado is going on, Grimnir will scream for no reason other than apparently he messed up his lines. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do more damage. Might do mental damage to your opponent, but it doesn't do any more damage. But it's fun to do. It's fun to do nevertheless. Also, him screaming while he's killing you is kind of funny. I can't lie. And then when you have 30% or below, you unlock his Super Skybound Arts, which works in a similar way as the tornado. If you're far away, you will not get an animation. You will do less damage. But if you're up close, you will get much more damage, as well as a full animation for it. And the difference between the two, though, is his Super Skybound Art, I believe, has 14 frames of projectile invulnerability. So if someone is putting you in pressure in the corner and tossing projectiles, not to say uses, for example, because that's his specialty, you can use this as a way to punish, because it is invul for at least the first 14 frames. And then he does have an install. You never see anybody use it, but he does have an install. That's of course his core circle back skill. When you have 100%, and what it does is it adds a little bar similar to what Nier has. And as you see, it slowly goes down on its own. But what it does is it gives him sealless dashes. Now it is limited, of course. It's not infinite dashes until the bar runs out. Each dash does take up a significant portion. That being said, though, being able to get longer combo extensions from it, or even better, or mix-ups anywhere on screen from it, or combo confirms anywhere on screen from it, is really good. It's unfortunate the fact that it does not give you a brave counter, but it does have its uses. And in the off chance that Grimnir gets nerfed next patch and his seals get nerfed, then more than likely you will be seeing that install used a lot more often. All right, now that we know what his normals are, now that we know what his specials are, what's his game plan? What's the set play people keep talking about? What on earth am I doing with this character? Well, basically, first and foremost, everything, anything, and everything again is basically all going to revolve around these seals. You're going to use it for mix-ups. You're going to use it for possible neutral skip. You're going to use it for rushdown. You're going to use them for movement. You're going to use them for RPS. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You're basically just going to use them for everything. So typically, the go-to Grimnir option, especially with how long the tornado lasts, is put a tornado in the way and set up seals. And once you do this, and once you're in this scenario, you basically can do many things. Many things. Typically, it'll all come down to what your opponent plays like, what characters they're playing. It can fluctuate as well as just in general what you want to do. So, just going over basically all the options I could think of. First and foremost, we have seals up. Let's start zoning. So we're going to put a tornado in the way, and we're going to throw a tornado. Put a tornado in the way, throw a tornado. Then we're going to put a tornado in the way, but we just throw another tornado. Oh, they're going to throw a projectile in the way, we throw an EX projectile. She's going to throw her own EX projectile, and ultimate tornado, and lariat, and we're in with the full combo. So, zoning. Very good, especially when you have seals up, because people are scared to approach when you're on seals, because when you're on seals, you have the advantage. So people are scared to approach, and when you have that option, and they're just going to hold the block button and crouch, because they're just going to wait for you to go in and basically give them a free turn, because this is minus on block. Well, just not. The option is just don't give him that opportunity and just throw 20,000 projectiles. Another option for if you do want to, for even if you have seals and you do want to go in, you have 214M. You can try and do that at the max range, especially if they're trying to not do anything, right? If they're just crouching and blocking, waiting for you to just dash in and give them a turn, then that does give you the opportunity to pick your space, 214M, and then enjoy the fact that you are plus. So you do always have that as an option as well. Or if they're running in at you, or they're trying to slowly walk closer, an option you have, of course, is doing a quick jump into 214M, because as I said before, if this hits, it's a full combo using dash. And even if they block it, if you're on top of a seal, they have to guess on whether or not you're going to use the seal to either dash in on them or escape. So there's always that. There's always that as an option. You have the full-on aggro option, which is full steam ahead. It's probably the one I recommend the least, but it is an option nevertheless. You have the option of doing tiger knee dash. Try to catch them either tossing a projectile, running forward, or just unaware that they can just mash afterwards to clash. But like I said, I don't recommend that too much. It's definitely a call-out tool, and one you could definitely use quite a bit, especially because people don't know. But because of the fact that when you crouch, when they're crouched, you will go over the head, can leave you open for being punished. But that being said, if they're sitting on top of a seal in any way, or you set up to where they're on top of a seal and they're trying to punish that, you go for a tiger knee dash. You just hold down you, and you will double dash. So that way you cannot be punished, even if they duck it. And if they end up standing in it, end up standing into it, the double dash will then just dash again. Will then just give you a second dash, and you'll be fine, and it won't really matter either way. So you'll be good either way. So when they're sitting on top of two seals, I recommend holding down the U button and holding forward. That way, if they crouch it, you go past them and you will not be punished. If they're standing, you will either dash again, or they'll block the first one like that, and then you can just mash L afterwards. Or they have a 6 or 7 frame close L. You can do JM instead. So still a really good tool, just not one that you should spam at all times, especially if people know to just duck it. So that's pretty much for the most part all of your options. Oh, there's actually one more option, and this is especially good if your opponent does not use the block button. Like unless they've played Grand Blue before, or they're a Mortal Kombat player, then more than likely most people are still not, to this day, even though the game's been out for a year, are still not that used to the block button. I'm still not used to the block button. The game's been out for a year. Another option is, of course, jump, go for cross up. Because if they're not going to use the block button, then you can always just make full abuse of it, and more than likely they will not be able to react to which side you're jumping on, because you could dash back, or you can dash over. Either way, good mix-ups, good options, and doing that goes with the next thing we'll talk about, which is the RPS of the seals. What do I mean by RPS of the seals? Well, as I've said before, seals are -2, right? Seals are -2. It's their turn, right? Not quite. The beauty of multiple seals is that when it's blocked, and you're on top of another seal, you can dash again. And see if you notice something. So I'm gonna do 2 different forms of dashes and see if you notice the difference. All right. Here's the first one. All right. And then here's the second one. In case you missed the difference, look at the active frame. So you look at the active frames of that second one. 10 frames, right? 10 frames for first active frames. That's because I stopped and then dashed again. But if Grimnir dashes without stopping, his first active frame is 1 frame when right next to somebody, because there is no startup to the second dash. Meaning that when you're on top of a seal, even if your opponent thinks it's their turn, right? And by all means, it is. If you have another seal in place, and with a little bit of a delay, you can punish them for pressing a button. So yes, it is technically their turn. But if you're on top of another seal, you can not only steal your turn back, but if they're pressing, you will not only hit them, you will get a full combo from it. And that right there is the beauty of the RPS of the seals. Are you going to press a button, or are you not going to press a button? And if they think you're going to go for the seal dash again, right? If they think you're going to go for the seal dash again, because you did it last time and they got punished for us last time, so I'm not going to press, I'm going to wait, eat the second dash, and be plus, that's when you do this. Or that's when you do this. And you just get a free turn back. Again, that's the RPS of the seals is a complete mind game to no end. As long as you have seals in place, and if you're anywhere near them, you have the advantage, and always make sure to try and take advantage of that. And the reason for that is because once you get that first hit and they're in the corner, especially if you got a hit in the corner, Grimnir becomes the scariest character in the game. Because if he got a hit in the corner, right? Let's just say I did a random combo, right? And I get seals up in the corner. Grimnir has the 3 options that basically everyone has, but he is the scariest at doing it. He has go for throw. He has walk up button. He has walk up, bait the throw. But the cool part about Grimnir is that he doesn't have to do run forward, dash back, or try to micro walk left right to try to bait out a throw. No, he just has to jump up and then dash straight down. And best part is exact same thing we talked about before. If they don't bait the throw, if they don't eat the throw, if they don't go for the throw and they just block it, you just go for the dash again. You dash down. They think it's their turn. And you get a hit, and once again, full combo. Grimnir is terrifying in the corner. We'll get to his combos. We'll get to his fuzzy setup. I'll show you the high-low 50-50, and you'll see his Oki is even scarier than his corner pressure. But once Grimnir gets you in the corner with seals, it is basically over, and Grimnir wants to take full advantage of that. So the whole point of Grimnir is set seals and do whatever you want, basically, because it's your game as long as seals are there. Oh yeah, and the one thing I did mention about seals, I can make this a 2-hour video if I want to right now, because these seals will never go away. Doesn't matter if you block a hit, you get hit by something. It doesn't matter. The seals will not go away except for two ways. One, you use one. The other one, and I forgot to mention this in the special section, you can only have 4 seals out at one time. So right now I've got 3. I'll just put up 4 new ones. I'm gonna put a new one up close to me, and one away. I'm gonna put another one away, another one away, another one away. So those are the only ways to get rid of seals. Is you're either going to use them, or you're going to place new seals. And so once Grimnir seals are out, they are just going to have to deal with it. And that is a beautiful thing. For us, not for them. For us, it's a beautiful thing. So the game plan almost entirely revolves around seals, because once you do, you have the advantage in neutral, You have the advantage in mix-ups, you have the advantage in pressures, you just have the advantage. The seals are his entire game plan, basically, and because that opens up everything for him. That being said, we got the hits, we got the mix-ups. What do we do now? Let's talk about a few combos, and let's talk about Oki. There will be a separate section at the very end entirely for combos, so I'm not going to do too many combos in this part. But let's talk about what we're going to do when it comes to Grimnir, when it comes to his Oki. So now the main thing when it comes to Grimnir that he's well known for, him and Zeta specifically, are of course the fuzzies. For those guys who don't know what a fuzzy is basically a high-low mix-up that can be created where your opponent cannot duck the high. So as you see, I do a jump into the jump JM, and she's not blocking, right? But if she's crouching, the JM will not hit. A fuzzy is when you do some kind of setup that'll make it where they cannot crouch before the overhead, so they have to guess high or low. That being said, fuzzy damage has been nerfed from the last patch and now does 40% less damage. But that still makes it a scary tool nevertheless, because if Grimnir has a seal up, it is a full combo. And Grimnir has many ways to do it. More than I will ever be able to put in this video, more than I know. But the simplest way just to explain it is let's just go off of a simple throw. We'll make it where she blocks everything and she's crouching with block enabled. The way you'll know that you're doing it right is have these settings on. So have them set to crouching, have them set to block all, and have them block switching enabled. That means they will block the overhead standing, and then they will revert to crouching. If you do the fuzzy correctly, then after you do the falling heavy or the falling medium or whichever you end up doing based on the combo or mix up you're doing, then you'll be able to hit them with the instant overhead without them being able to crouch like that. And then so that's a pure guess on their part. Now they can guard cancel it, of course. Everyone, that is the go-to move of the game, pretty much. Brave counter, guard cancel, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, though, if you get a hit on somebody, right, and you go for a full combo, and especially if it's early on in the game, even if you know or think they're going to guard cancel, having them do that, especially in a game where they use one of their brave points, is honestly a pretty useful option to have, because that's more damage that they're going to take. That's less raging strikes they can do. That's less guard cancels that they can do. And the end, you having more brave points than them is just always a good thing. So yes, it's not great the fact that they can guard cancel your fuzzy setup, because, well, I wanted to mix them. But still a useful thing to do, useful thing to have, nevertheless. That being said, though, it doesn't work on everybody. Alright, so it works on every character except for Charlotta, Cagliostro, Narmaya, Anila, and Anre. Alright, you can do the fuzzy to every character except for those characters. But that being said, there is one other thing you can do to a bunch of characters when it comes to the fuzzy. And specifically to characters like Ladiva, Vasaraga, Eustace, Grimnir, Lucilius, the two Belials, Beelzebub, Percival, Catalina, and Versusia. And what exactly is that? It is 50% sealless fuzzies. And what I mean by 50% sealless fuzzies, well, remember his 2-2U. Remember how I said before that his 2-2U has a hitbox? Yeah, so you can do that, and remember how I said you can do seals in the air? You can do that. You can do that. You can do that to those characters. So you do not need a seal, and you'll still be able to get a fuzzy. And yes, when they don't block it, it is a full combo. And not only is it a full combo, it's a full combo that can lead into another fuzzy setup. So there isn't a ton of characters you can do that to, but for those you can, it's an added level of pressure. That's an extra level of fuzzy that maybe they're not ready for, and it will give you not only seals, not only a full combo, but another setup on top of that. So even though it's not going to be used every game because it's only on specific characters, it is very useful to know, and it is a very useful tool to have, especially knowing the fact that Belly and Lucilius are a little bit strong right now. And then the last bit of corner mix-up options that I haven't talked about yet is his tornado. And it's more than just the whole setup seals. It's a way to set up plus frames. It's a way to set up mix. It does a little bit of everything. So first and foremost, let's just say you're staggering them, right? And you do far H. Far H having these mid pushback. Off this far H, you can do tornado and send it up in the air. And you see that plus 11. Plus 12. So that is a very useful tool to set up plus frames that could then lead to you doing 6XL, 6XH. A couple of different options being able to use the plus frames. The other option, and the more fun option, is especially when you have seals up like this, put a tornado in their way and do mix-ups. So put a tornado in the way, do run up seal, or do run up seal dash, jump seal dash, bait out throws. Do run up throw. If they think you're going to do run up throw and they want to try to push a button, you could do run up 6XL, run up 5H. Same thing we were talking about before with this corner pressure. You can literally just do it pretty much just based on the fact that there's a tornado in the way and they kind of just have to deal with it. Their one option, they have two options technically. Actually, no, three. So they have just straight up doing a super. They can DP, or they can jump in the air. So DP and super, simple. The super, you spot dodge. The DP is kind of a bit of a call out. You can either run forward and stop. You could do run forward dodge, or put a tornado. They think they're going DP, run up dodge in the middle of the tornado. That way the DP, you just dodge it. If not, if they end up not doing that, there's still a tornado in the way, so they can't really punish you for it anyways. And then if they're jumping, if you're able to recognize the fact that they're jumping, you could do run up 2H, and you could do like run up 2H raging strike, assuming they're not that high, and you can get a full combo from it. You can try and do a more riskier jump up throw. So you've got run up 63H. You have a few options to do that if you're able to recognize that they're constantly trying to jump. The one other thing, and this is the day one mix, as it's jokingly called, because friggin' Diaphone was doing this week one the game came out, is you set up a tornado really close to them, and then you do dash forward medium. And if you do that, you will get a full confirm into a full combo. Because if you put the tornado close enough to them, they will get, even though they weren't within reach when they're standing there, after they get hit, I guess their hitbox their hurtbox spreads out just enough to where it will get hit by the tornado, giving you a full combo. So that's typically that's been called or been dubbed the day one mix. So having seals there, or like we talked about before, if they're in the corner, right, they block far H, you're far away. You want to put a tornado in the way? Well, do what we talked about the game plan is. Far H, throw a tornado, set up seals. You see how long the tornado was still there? So we do far H, put a tornado in the way, set up seals, and you still probably got another. But you still probably have enough time to go make yourself a cup of coffee or something and come back and then start your pressure. So far H, On top of paying our taxes, being the primary button we use, it also creates distance usable to set up seals or set up tornado pressure using the plus frames. So Grimnir, like I said, one of the scariest characters in the corner, can do basically everything, gets lots of damage from it, especially when he has seals, and especially if people don't know to press the button. You didn't think that just that falling heavy was the only way to set up throws, right? Or set up fuzzies. Grimnir pressure is endless when he has seals up. Grimnir pressure is basically unblockable when you have seals there. They are completely guessing at all times, and at the second they guess wrong, even once, you're going to get a ton of damage off it, you're going to get another mix-up off it, and your game plan is completely rolling. That is the overall game plan of Grimnir, and I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. If you have any other questions about Grimnir that I might have missed, make sure to write down in the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer anything that I may have missed. I'm going to be finishing up this video with just some combos that I typically do. Remember, there are so many combos with this character, so many setups, be it mid-screen combos, mid-screen fuzzies, corner fuzzies, 50-50s, different mix-ups, cross-ups. There are so many different setups with this character that I would never be able to put them all in one video. So if you have a different way to set up a combo, that's great. Feel free to type that in the comment section as well. Let other people know about possible new combos that they could try out. Until then, hope you guys enjoyed this guide. Until next time, I will talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.